They're a group whose ranks include people who don't recognize many laws. Some don't pay taxes.
Still, they managed to get honorary recognition by 2 cities in North Carolina. WRL's Brian Mims reports the mayor of one of those cities now wants to retract it.
City proclamations are purely ceremonial with their whereases and therefores. This one proclaims January 8th through the 15th Moorish American Week in Fayetteville. The Moors believe they were the first people to live in the Americas, but the Southern Poverty Law Center calls them sovereigns in black, a reference to white anti-government sovereign citizens groups. Reports have surfaced of Moorish Americans who refuse to pay taxes and view the government as illegitimate. Fayetteville Mayor Tony Schiavone could not be reached for an interview, but sent this written response. It was never the intention of the city of Fayetteville to endorse or give credence to any separatist or sovereign citizen group. We sincerely appreciate the many contributions that all Americans have made to our country and regret any confusion or misunderstanding this may have caused. And Fayetteville is hardly alone. I have in my hand several proclamations from cities across the country: Chicago, Tacoma, Washington, Omaha, and Charlotte.
I think that they should still let the proclamation stand because we are abiding citizens.
Alim EL-Bey of Fayetteville says that week was chosen for a proclamation because it's the birthday of the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, about taxes.
Indians and those of 3/5 person do not pay taxes. So that is what that is stemming from. It's from the Constitution. So we are in abidance with the Constitution.
So do you pay taxes to the government?
Yes. I have businesses.
He says Moorish Americans are nothing like the sovereign citizens, and their heritage, he adds, is worth proclaiming. Brian Mims, WRAL News, Fayetteville.
The mayor told us by phone he had never heard of the group. He says the city gets numerous requests for proclamations and that they are all reviewed by city staff.
So what prompted you to seek a proclamation from the city?
Well, actually, it was some students in which that put together the proclamation agenda in which that they wanted to, I guess, send it out to the various mayors in order to get their view and to possibly get the proclamation put forth between January the 8th through the 15th, in which that will recognize the Moorish Americans as having a week. Similar to, I guess you can say, what would be considered Black History Month. January the 8th happened to be the birth time of Prophet Noble Ali, who is the founder of the Moorish Divine National Movement here in America.
Now, I have read literature about Moorish Americans and have seen that many of them do not honor state, local, federal laws, that you are a sovereign people.
Well, only because Congress cannot legislate or make laws concerning religion. So as far as religious, as a religion, then the Moorish Science Temple of America is a religious organization.
Is it true that there are Moorish Americans who don't acknowledge state and local, federal laws, that they don't pay taxes and that sort of thing, that essentially the government in place in the United States is not legitimate?
You have to understand, no. You have to understand where they get that perception from. According to Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, it states that those of Negro descent and African descent are classified as 3/5 person, which means 3/5 of a human being, which means a subhuman, in which that it states right there within that same section, Indians and those of 3/5 person do not pay taxes. So that is what that is stemming from. It's from the Constitution. So we are in abidance with the Constitution.
So do you pay taxes to the government?
Yes. I have businesses.
What kind of business are you in?
Well, several. We have our own healing facility, which is called Healing Wings Institute, in which that we have online, as well as also we have Cultural Freedom Bookstore, as well as also online. So we have these various businesses in which that we do pay taxes on.
Are you in concert have any association with the sovereign citizens of America?
No. The sovereign citizens of America, I would believe that you were talking about certain militia groups or something?
Yeah, and they too don't acknowledge state, local, federal government.
Our reasons for what we do is totally different than why they do theirs. Ours is based on religion, as well as also we have civic and law teachings in which that deals with the Constitution of the United States, as well as also the other constitutions of the United States, which are Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, Articles of Association, which are the 4 constitutions.
Some might consider you a radical group.
No.
You deny that?
Yes.
Did your seeking a proclamation have anything to do with the consent search controversy going on in Fayetteville?
Actually, that came through, from what I've studied and read about it, it came through a Christian organization. So it had nothing to do, per se, with the Moors.
Tonight, the Fayetteville City Council has approved a temporary freeze on police consent searches. The practice has come under fire by some as being racially motivated. Greg Barnes has reaction to tonight's decision.
It was a packed house for what the mayor called a momentous vote.
We're all accountable to someone, and that includes the police department and includes the city council.
In an 8-2 decision, city leaders Monday night approved a moratorium on consent searches. At least for now, police can't ask a motorist for consent to search their vehicle based on just the officer's hunch.
They made a big giant step tonight just to correct the wrong that we feel like has been going on here.
Recent numbers show that 3/4 of motorists searched here were African American. Monday night, the city manager outlined a 4-point moratorium proposal that included bringing in outside consultants to review traffic stops and search policies and have citizens' input on any changes.
It is my opinion that is an issue that should be addressed by the state legislatures.
But some question the legality of the council's decision. The police chief warned of possible dire consequences.
If it was deemed illegal by the courts, that of course I would lose my certification, and those that would obey that order would probably lose theirs.
Despite the good intentions, the law has been violated.
And the executive director of the Police Benevolent Association vowed to keep fighting the council's decision.
I think this is a question before the district attorney, the state attorney general, and the U.S. attorney.
And Fayetteville Mayor Tony Schiavone may have had the last word when he said this was an issue about transparency and accountability. Residents say it's about restoring their trust.
The vote is extremely important. It's an effort to restore the credibility in our local police department, to bridge the divide that's been created here.
And it starts as early as tomorrow. That's when the city manager says the consultants, 3 retired big city police administrators, will be here to start looking through police files and reviewing policy. The city manager hopes to have their findings ready in a month or 2. In Fayetteville, Greg Barnes, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
However, she, the lady in which that, who belonged to the church, she, would be classified or stated as being black. So if that was the case, then I guess that's how it got connected to the Moors. But no, it actually came through a lady who got stopped, in which that they had her and her grandchild outside, as they searched the car, and that's what supposedly took place. And because of that, I guess what pursued or what proceeded after that is what took place with them saying the search policy, and the reason why they not to search the cars like they were doing or had that ability to do so is because of that incident.
What is your view toward the vehicle consent searches?
I think it should be constitutional. Based on the Constitution, in order to search or seize any person's vehicle or property, they must have a warrant or a sworn affidavit that did some offense in which that took place, or that someone was injured. And if there's no injury and no damaged party and no sworn affidavit, then no, this would be no search in which that takes place. That's constitutional.
The mayor is considering retracting the proclamation.
Right.
And what is your response to that?
Well, I seen the proclamation, and the first thing I noticed is that out of all the ones in which that I seen from the other cities, which was about 8 others, the only one I seen that did not have a seal on it from the city was Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
So I already felt that they was already, kind of, thinking probably not to do so, had some reservations concerning the matter.
And what is your reaction to that?
I think that they should still let the proclamation stand because we are abiding citizens.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the point you're trying to drive home to people, that you are abiding citizens, when there is a perception out there that this group is controversial and unorthodox.
Of course it's unorthodox for anyone to stand up for their rights. That's unorthodox. I mean, Martin Luther King, he stood up for the rights, for civil rights, and that was unorthodox. I mean, anytime someone stand up, it's unorthodox. Of course, most people don't want to stand up. They want someone else to take care of their problems for them. Mm-hmm. We're not that type of organization.
Do you acknowledge that there are some in the organization who don't pay taxes, who don't honor the laws of the country, or use fake documents?
No one I know.
Any of that?
No one I know. No one I know.
But elsewhere,
I mean, all of the documents have to go through the county, so it's authentic by the fact that it has notaries, it has witnesses, and it has clerk of courts seals on them from the state of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. That means it's authentic according to the rules of evidence 901 and 902, in which that states self-identification and authentication process, which means that in the authentication process it must have witnesses. The document affidavits must have witnesses, notaries, and or clerks of court seals on it from the state of North Carolina or any other territory or republic, and therefore those are authentic documents and stand in court throughout all of the 50 states. So there is no fictitious or fraudulent documents. That's not true.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know anyone who does it.
So how would you describe the group you have here in Fayetteville, the Moorish Americans?
Oh, beautiful. Mm-hmm. I'll say they're beautiful. They study the law. They study civics. They study history. Very intelligent. Mm-hmm. Very intelligent.
And why is it important to you to have a week, at least a week, observing the history, celebrating the history of the Moors?
Well, first let me explain the difference between Moorish Americans and Negroes, Blacks, and Coloreds. Mm-hmm. Negro, Blacks, and Coloreds, those particular labels are adjectives. It describes a thing, but not a proper noun. A proper noun is a person, place, and thing. Mm-hmm. In regard to a person, proper noun would be a Moor. When you look up in Webster Dictionary, when you look at the definition of Moor, and you look next to the word Moor, it says a noun. If you look near the word Negro, is adjective. You look near Black, adjective. These are adjectives. So therefore, we are putting ourselves back in proper status, what is called proper persona sui juris, which means back in our rightful status. Negro, Black, and Colored are adjectives. They do not give you a proper status in law. According to law, we're civilis mortuus, which means that we're dead in the eyes of the law. Well, I want to be in full life because I don't want to be classified as 3/5 of a human being.
I want to be 5/5. I want to be a whole being. And I want to be treated as such. And I want to have human rights, not just civil rights. In order to be recognized as a human being, I must have human rights. You know, and then civil rights will come along with it. For me to fight for civil rights without being recognized as a human being, that's for nothing.
So the founder, I guess you could say, was from North Carolina?
Yes, he was born and raised here. Partially, he was born in 1886, right here in North Carolina. Matter of fact, near Clayton, on the reservation, near the Chahari Reservation, Cherokee Reservation.
He's founder of the Moorish
Science Temple of America.
Science Temple of America.
Yes.
Is it recognized as a people group, or recognized by the government as a?
It's been recognized by the Secretary of State, by the county. That's what you mean. As well as also, yes. Yes. As well as also.
As what? As how would?
As a religious organization.
Religious organization.
Right, but not under a 501c3 status. Because the 501c3 status didn't come into play until the 1960s under Lyndon B. Johnson. Our church or temple has been in existence ever since 1913. So almost 100 years. And so we wanted to get the proclamations done prior to 2013, which would give us 100 years of existence. So that would give us the next year in order to celebrate this properly.
So how many members do you claim in the temple here in Fayetteville?
I don't know the numbers. We can say here because we have people who come to classes, and we don't prescribe to say just membership in that regard. You know, I mean, people come to class, they learn information, they go out and they do their own research and study. That's the only thing that we suggest.
So are you seeking proclamations in any other cities now?
I mean, there's teams of other Moors who are definitely doing that, and I'm sure they're going for other cities. Yes.
9 so far. Have there been any issues surrounding these proclamations in these other cities? Any controversies?
Not that I know of. This is the only one.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Right. We ain't gonna take up too much of your time, but we're gonna deal with lawful, de jure, God-given, was referred to de jure, the republic, God-given rights, natural rights, indigenous rights, constitutional rights, common law rights, versus the de facto government referred to as the democracy, which is legal but yet unlawful, which is under colorable law, rules, regulations, statutes, ordinances, and codes, which actually deals with the artificial person. So as you see, one deals with natural rights, which is a natural person, the other one deals with artificial person. The problem in which that is going on is that everybody in society, matter of fact, probably even around the world, is caught up into artificial person. What we mean by that is that the governments are de facto. So let's look up de facto. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition.
They got a 4th edition? I'll look it up from here.
De facto government, one that maintains itself by a display of force against the will of the rightful legal government, and is successful, at least temporarily, in overturning the institutions of the rightful legal government by setting up its own lieu thereof. That's what it reads. All right? This goes for de facto contracts, de facto judges, a judge who functions under color of authority, which is colorable law, but whose authority is defective in some procedural form. All right? So this goes with anything in which that is contrary to de jure. Now, understand this. Let's read the word de facto. In fact, indeed, actually, this phrase is used to characterize an officer of government, a past action, or a state of affairs which may be accepted for all practical purposes, but is illegal or illegitimate. Thus, an office, position, or statute, or status, I should say, existing under a claim or color of right, colorable law, such as a de facto corporation. In this sense, it is contrary of de jure, which means rightful, legitimate, just, or constitutional. Thus, an officer, king, or government de facto is one who is in actual possession of the office of supreme power, but by usurpation or without lawful title, while a officer, king, or governor de jure is one who has just claim and rightful title to the office or power, but has never been plenary possession of it, or is not in actual possession. A wife de facto is one whose marriage is voidable by decree, as distinguished from a wife de jure or lawful wife. But the term is also frequently used independently of any distinction from de jure. Thus, a blockade de facto is a blockade which is actually maintained as distinguished from a mere paper blockade, compared de jure. So, that is de facto government. Now let's go to de jure, as they state. Let's compare. De jure, descriptive of a condition in which there has been total compliance with all requirements of law, of right, legitimate, lawful, by right and just title. In this sense, it is contrary of de facto. It may also be contrast with de gratia, or de gratia, in which case it means as a matter of fact, as de gratia means by grace or favor. Again, it may be contrast with de acquittance, here meaning by law, as the latter means by equity. All right? So, de jure means right, legitimate, lawful, by right and just title, while de facto means that they might sit in the seat of power and assume authority, but it was by usurpation. They usurted the power. So when did this usurpation take place? Well, for the Moors, it took place in 1774 when we was denationalized. And we was given artificial titles such as Negro, Black, and Colored. All right? This is something we'll get into, because one man does not have power over another man's destiny. Otherwise, you are a slave. Let's look at this. We have several Supreme Court case laws here, which that correlate to everything which that we're talking about. It reads, United States versus Meeker. Because of what appears to be a lawful command on the surface, many citizens, because of respect for the law, are cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to ignorance. So ignorance of the law is no excuse. You have waived your rights, so therefore you have committed yourself to being part of the de facto corporation, democracy, in which that is under colorable law with rules, regulations, statutes, ordinances, and codes, which makes you an artificial person. Why? Because you have no superior claim or lien in which that takes you from out of this artificial characteristics, or what is called your second-class citizenship. Your second-class citizenship is a status. You haven't claimed your first A truth status, as we would say, or 1A class status. All right? Now, we continue on. It says, Shura versus Collins. For a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed on one because of the exercise of a constitutional right. So, your right to travel is part of your constitutional right, your indigenous right, your natural rights, your God-given rights, your common law rights. your right to travel is part of that. No man can incumbent or place sanctions, regulations, taxes, or fees upon another natural person, another man. This is ridiculous. Corporations do this and they get away with it because we do not know the law. It says Miller versus United States. It says the claim and the exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. Well, they do that every day. Anytime that they'll stop you when you have the right to travel, and what the right to travel actually means is that if you're taking your grandmother to the grocery store and she's not paying you, then you are not in the field of commerce. You're not operating as a taxi cab service, or a UPS, or a FedEx, or 18-wheeler, or anybody who has CDLs, which is commercial driver's license. They operate in that venue. You do not. So actually the police do not have the ability in all righteousness, in all God-given rights, natural rights, indigenous rights, constitutional rights, common law rights to even stop you. This is something which is going on and we have allowed for it to happen. Check this out. This is Connolly versus Union Sewer Pipe Corporation, the company. With regards particularly to the United States Constitution, it is elementary that a right secured or protected by that document cannot be overthrown or impaired by any state police authority. This is United States Supreme Court case law. All right? It says it cannot be overthrown or impaired by any state police authority. Why? Because the Constitution have granted you certain immunities, privileges, but you have God-given rights in which that it also tells you that that this Constitution abides by. It can't grant you rights because you already was born with your rights.
Peace.